Bette Davis wanted Laurence Olivier. Warner Brothers gave her Errol Flynn. And then they trapped him. No ship, no forest, no escape. Just Flynn inside Bette Davis's kingdom, with Olivia de Havilland standing nearby like the romance he could no longer reach. Flynn had the charm, Olivia had the life he wanted, Davis had the throne. And this time, the throne won. The first thing to know about the private lives of Elizabeth and Essex is that it's not a polite costume picture. This movie has teeth. It has gowns, jewels, candlelight, technicolor splendor, and Errol Flynn looking every inch the dangerous favorite. But under all that velvet, something darker is waiting. The story follows Queen Elizabeth I and Robert Devereux, Earl of Essex, a royal favorite whose charm, ambition, and popularity became too dangerous for the woman who loves him. Turner Classic Movies notes that Bette Davis had wanted Laurence Olivier for Essex. Elizabeth was a feast of a role. Pride, wit, jealousy, command, longing, fury, heartbreak. Davis wanted an actor who could meet her inside that theatrical storm. Warner Brothers gave her Flynn. At first, that sounds like a gift. Flynn was glamorous, bankable, and beloved. He was Captain Blood. He was Robin Hood. He was movement, mischief, bravery, and that flashing smile that made rebellion feel like a gentleman's sport. Usually, if Flynn was in trouble, trouble looked lucky to have him. But stay with me here, because this is where the movie pulls its first kick. It does not use Flynn's charm to set him free. It uses Flynn's charm to make him dangerous. Davis was only 31 years old, but she did not play Elizabeth as soft glamour. She played her as a woman armored by age, vanity, loneliness, and command. According to the American Film Institute, this was Davis's first Technicolor film, and she did not use color to look more delicate. She used it to look more formidable. The white face, red hair, jewels, towering gowns, and rigid collars do not simply decorate her, they fortify her. Before Elizabeth even speaks, she looks like a woman who has turned herself into a nation. Then Flynn's Essex walks in with all the warmth the palace lacks. Handsome, admired, alive with confidence. He has the kind of beauty that makes people forgive him too quickly and question too slowly. That is why he is dangerous. Not because he is hateful, but because he is dazzling. And when Warner Brothers places Olivia de Havilland nearby as Lady Penelope Grey, her role is smaller than her meaning. To audiences, de Havilland carried the memory of Flynn's romantic past. The glow, the glance, the pleasure of a Flynn romance that seemed distant to win. But this movie refuses that comfort. Olivia represents the life Essex wants but cannot reach. Youth, romance, softness. The beautiful possibility of being loved without a crown standing in the way. And Bette Davis's Elizabeth sees it. That is the bite of the movie. It is not asking only, does Elizabeth love Essex? It is asking, can Elizabeth afford to love Essex? That is the first turn of the screw. Warner Brothers cast Flynn as a romantic hero, then placed him in a love story where romance becomes the very thing that exposes him. But the next conflict is not just in the plot, it's in the stars themselves. For Davis, Flynn was complicated. He was a huge star, glamorous and bankable, but Davis had wanted a different kind of acting partner and reportedly never forgot it. That tension gives the movie electricity, not cozy chemistry. Combative chemistry. The kind where every scene feels like someone might kiss, slap, or condemn someone to death. And here's the strange thing. That mismatch may be exactly why the movie works. Flynn's Essex enters like a Flynn hero. Warm, witty, arrogant, handsome, and carrying open air into closed rooms. But Davis looks at him as if she can see the crack inside the gold. Her Elizabeth wants him, enjoys him, and does not trust him. According to Flynn's later account, production lore, not courtroom fact, the famous slap between Elizabeth and Essex had more force than he expected. That story survives because it feels exactly like the movie. Davis and Flynn were playing attraction mixed with disgust, pleasure mixed with pride, romance tangled in power. Olivia de Havilland adds the third note, youth, ease, warmth, and the romantic road not taken. So the triangle becomes more than gossip. Flynn is charm beginning to curdle into ambition. Olivia is the life this movie refuses to give him. And Davis is the woman who understands the price before anyone else does. Then Michael Curtiz takes that tension and tightens it. According to the American Film Institute, William Keighley was originally slated to direct, but Curtiz ultimately took over. That mattered because Curtiz knew how to make pressure move. He takes the man built for ships, forests, horses, sunlight, and motion, and locks him inside rooms, inside ceremony, inside a court where every compliment has a hook, then every smile may be a weapon. That is why the film feels less like a swashbuckler and more like a palace knife fight. And that is exactly the kind of old Hollywood tension we love uncovering on Flashback Rewind, where the drama behind the camera often shapes what we see on screen. Because here, the tension is not just between Davis and Flynn. It is built into the movie itself. The movie knows where the power is. Essex may be the flame, Elizabeth is the room he burns in. That is the second turn of the screw. The very charm that made Flynn beloved is the thing that makes Essex unsafe. The audience came to watch Flynn win. The movie makes us realize why he cannot. At first glance, this looks like the kind of movie where Errol Flynn should win. He is the handsome favorite, the brave soldier, the man loved by the crowd, the man the camera knows how to admire. And for a while, the movie lets us enjoy him. It understands the pleasure of Flynn. It understands why Essex could be intoxicating to a queen surrounded by caution, ceremony, and whispering policy. But slowly, the pleasure curdles into danger. Essex is romantic, but he is also ambitious. He is brave, but he is also reckless. He is loved, but he is hungry to be loved more. That is the film's great reversal. It does not scold us for liking Flynn, it depends on us liking Flynn. Because if Essex were not dazzling, Elizabeth's choice would be easy, but he is dazzling, and that is why he is unsafe. So is Essex romantic, reckless, or both? That question is exactly why the movie works. Because Elizabeth sees what others miss. The vanity under the courage, the appetite under the romance, the danger inside the applause. Essex thinks being wanted proves he is worthy of power. Elizabeth knows better. That is why the film still feels surprisingly modern. It understands how dangerous charm can come when people mistake popularity for wisdom. But stay with me here because this is where Olivia de Havilland becomes more than a supporting character. In an ordinary Flynn romance, her glow might be the future. Here, it is the life he cannot have. Not because Olivia lacks importance, but because the film is not about the romance he could win. It is about the power he cannot survive. And Bette Davis refuses to let this become the softer movie. Her Elizabeth may be jealous, but she is not petty. She may be vain, but she is not foolish. She may want Essex, but she understands that wanting is not enough. For a moment, you can almost see the woman inside the queen reaching toward pleasure. Softness, love, then the crown comes down again. The voice hardens, the face closes, the ruler returns. Leadership is loneliness with witnesses. Essex thinks love should open the gate. Elizabeth knows love may be the reason the gate has to close. That is the third turn of the screw. The movie gives us the Flynn fantasy, then makes that fantasy dangerous. The smile, the swagger, the romance, the applause, everything that usually saves him becomes evidence against him. And by the final act, Warner Brothers has made the metaphor visible. The danger is no longer just in Essex's ambition. It is in the world around him. The walls close in, the costumes harden, the music swells, the crown becomes heavier than the heart. That is where the craftsmanship matters. Because Elizabethan England in this movie was not discovered, it was manufactured. Nobody went to Tudor England. Warner Brothers built it onto studio stages, turning soundstage space into throne rooms, corridors, courts, and prisons of power. Stone by stone, shadow by shadow, silhouette by silhouette. But pause on that for a second. The studio did not just build a palace, it built Elizabeth's loneliness. Turner Classic Movies notes the film's striking design, and Anton Groth's production design does not simply create a royal setting. It creates pressure. The rooms are vast and severe. The walls feel heavy. The palace may belong to Elizabeth, but it never feels like home. Sol Polito and W. Howard Green's Technicolor does not simply make the palace beautiful, it makes it feel rich, cold, and overwhelming. A world where romance has to fight for air. Ori Kelly's costumes do some of the film's most important storytelling. Elizabeth's gowns are not simply grand, they are weapons. They rise around Davis like armor, magnificent, rigid, and unreachable. Flynn's costumes do the opposite. His Essex looks alive, attractive, and ready to be admired. Then comes Eric Wolfgang Korngold's music. Korngold had already helped define the sound of Warner Brothers' adventure, and here his score makes Private Heartbreak feel like the public history. And the Academy noticed that machinery of that illusion. Official Oscar records list 5 nominations for the private lives of Elizabeth and Essex, all in craft categories. Not Davis, not Flynn, the palace, the color, the sound, the score, the glittering machinery around them. The Academy recognized the world Warner Brothers built, a Technicolor cage grand enough to hold 2 enormous stars and cold enough to make a queen look lonely inside it. And then came the year that made everything feel larger. 1939 was no ordinary year. This was the year of Gone with the Wind, The Wizard of Oz, Stagecoach, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Ninotchka, and so many others. The strangest part? This movie about England's queen choosing country over private love was supposed to premiere in London, until war broke out in Europe and Warner Brothers moved it to Beverly Hills. Suddenly, the crown was not just a prop. The palace was not just a set. The story of a ruler standing firm while danger gathered around England had thunder outside the theater doors. But the final heartbreak is not the death of Essex. It is Elizabeth's survival. Some later film history accounts say a final execution block scene may have been cut after previews. That detail is worth handling carefully, but dramatically, it makes sense. By pulling back from Essex's final physical moment, the released film leaves the emotional weight exactly where it belongs, with Elizabeth. No Flynn triumph, no escape, just consequence. A man destroyed by ambition, a queen left standing, a crown that survives, a heart that has to break quietly because a country is still watching. And that is the final reversal. The movie begins by making us watch Errol Flynn, but it ends by making us feel the cost of being Bette Davis. Warner Brothers locked Flynn inside the palace, but the queen was captive to the crown long before he arrived. So yes, Warner Brothers trapped Errol Flynn, but the real surprise is what the trap reveals. The private lives of Elizabeth and Essex is not simply about a favorite who reaches too high or a queen who loves too dangerously. It is about the terrible moment when charm meets power, and power refuses to yield. Flynn can dazzle the court, he can stir the crowd, he can even break the queen's heart, but he cannot outrun the crown. And in 1939, that image carried a shadow beyond the screen. A movie about England's queen choosing country over private love arrived just as the real England was facing war. So the final image is not Flynn riding into sunlight, it is Bette Davis standing alone, not as a woman who won, but as a queen who has endured. That is why this film deserves another look. Not because it gives us the Flynn fantasy, but because it takes that fantasy away and shows us what power costs. So tell me, does the private lives of Elizabeth and Essex deserve a bigger place in Errol Flynn's career, or will Robin Hood and Captain Blood always own the spotlight? Drop it in the comments, and subscribe to Flashback Rewind for more old Hollywood stories where glamour collides with history.